Hunter Biden's nudes. Joe Biden named the big guy. The Hunter Biden probe stymied at every turn, according to 2 IRS whistleblowers. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell, and the Hunter Biden investigation just keeps on getting uglier and uglier. And beneath it all lies the ugliest question of all. How much was President Joe Biden involved? And how much has the U.S. government protected the Bidens? House Republicans are on a mission to answer those questions, and they just got new fuel for the fire. No, it's not Hunter Biden's nudes. Thanks, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now Matt's trauma is everyone's trauma. No, this is the fuel. Last week, House Republicans had a chance to publicly question 2 IRS whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and his subordinate, Joseph Ziegler. Ziegler played the role of surprise guest, only revealing his identity at the last minute. During the testimony, he mentioned that he is a married gay man who identifies as a middle-of-the-road Democrat. He said this was no reason to give his testimony extra credibility, but I mean, come on, who are we fooling? Both whistleblowers are veterans with well over a decade of experience investigating crime for the IRS. They alleged that from the very beginning of the Hunter Biden investigations in 2018, government entities have interfered in ways that benefited the Bidens. This happened during the Trump administration, and it happened during the Biden administration. And if their testimony is to be believed, it happened in spite of the best efforts of U.S. Attorney of Delaware, David Weiss, who was in charge of the investigation starting in 2019. So in a way, it's bipartisan, corrupt Republicans and Democrats working together to protect their own. America the Beautiful. Shapley and Ziegler provided written testimonies to the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Ways and Means, one in late May and early June. They had a lot to say. For one, they said that the IRS largely concluded its investigation in 2021 and recommended 11 charges against Hunter Biden, including 6 felonies. That didn't happen. Instead, Hunter Biden was charged with and eventually pled guilty to just 2 misdemeanor tax offenses for 2017 and 2018, and for a felony firearm offense for possessing a gun as a drug addict, which was widely seen as a sweetheart deal. Hunter's charges were more chopped up than every reflective surface in one of his hotel rooms. This is despite what Shapley and Ziegler described as $2.2 million in tax evasion on $8.3 million in foreign income earned between 2014 and 2019. Foreign income that came from a laundry list of shady business deals, as we've reported before. For the IRS whistleblowers, there's a lot of evidence of government officials giving Hunter special treatment.
There was multiple steps that were slow-walked at the direction of the Department of Justice.
Had you ever encountered that before?
I have not, no. These deviations from normal process, and each and every time it seemed to always benefit the subject.
But at the end of the day, it's a matter of, are we treating everyone the same? Are we treating all taxpayers the same?
And in this case?
And in this case, no, I don't think so.
It appeared to me, based on what I experienced, that the U.S. Attorney in Delaware in our investigation was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials as well as other U.S. attorneys.
They cited a lot of roadblocks. For example, remember that WhatsApp message Hunter Biden sent where he used his father as leverage to make demands on a businessman with Chinese Communist Party links? Well, according to Shapley, prosecutors denied investigators' requests to develop a strategy to look into the messages and denied investigators' suggestion to obtain location information to see where the texts were sent from. Then there was the infamous Hunter Biden laptop from hell, which the investigators were not given access to. It's almost like it wasn't Russian disinformation. Nah, intel officials couldn't be that wrong or dishonest, right? No way. One of the biggest roadblocks was allegedly Delaware Assistant U.S. Attorney Leslie Wolf. Shapley claimed that she objected to requesting a search warrant of Joe Biden's guest house where Hunter Biden kept some of his financial records, even though there was more than enough probable cause, because the question was whether the juice was worth the squeeze and the optics. Yeah, following the trail of probable cause against the former vice president's son might look bad. Gotcha. He also alleged that she objected to a search warrant for a storage unit in Northern Virginia. And when a search warrant ended up in the works anyway, she tipped off Hunter Biden's defense counsel. She also reportedly delayed actions in 2022 before the midterms, asking, why would we shoot ourselves in the foot by charging before the election? Yeah, I mean, it's not like people that know they're under investigation and have been tipped off will use delays to, I don't know, destroy evidence. Although, to be fair, Hunter doesn't seem to be terribly productive with his free time. Ziegler's testimony backed up Shapley's claims. Leslie Wolf had some other extremely interesting things to say about the big guy. And I promise we'll come back to that. But a big part of the whistleblower's testimony had to do with the head of the investigation, U.S. Attorney of Delaware, David Weiss. I'll tell you what they said about him after the break. Welcome back. Back in March, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland claimed that Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss had complete authority to charge Hunter Biden in other states. And yet, IRS whistleblowers described how Biden appointed U.S. Attorneys General in Washington, D.C. and the Central District of California got in Weiss's way. They didn't want to charge Hunter Biden for tax fraud, and as a result, created delays that allowed the statutes of limitations for Hunter Biden's crimes to expire. Why was that allowed to happen? Well, maybe because here in America, everyone is entitled to an 11th chance to reform. That's why the prisons here are also empty. Shapley recalled how, in an October 2022 meeting, Weiss told a group of senior IRS and FBI officials that he was not the deciding person on whether charges are filed. According to Shapley, Weiss stated that he subsequently asked for special counsel authority from the DOJ, which would have given him the power to file charges outside his jurisdiction even without approval, and was denied that authority. This seems to contradict Garland's March testimony that the U.S. Attorney Weiss has been advised that he has full authority to bring cases in other jurisdictions if he feels it's necessary. When this claim about Weiss's comments came to light, Garland insisted that Weiss had complete authority to charge Hunter Biden, and that he didn't know how it would be possible for anyone to block him. On top of that, Garland claimed that Weiss never asked for special counsel powers. Spokespeople for the U.S. Attorney's offices in D.C. and California also claimed that Weiss was given full authority to bring charges in any jurisdiction he deemed appropriate. To make matters more confusing, Weiss himself disputes the IRS whistleblower's claims. Weiss wrote a letter in early June to the Senate Judiciary Committee saying that he had been granted ultimate authority over this matter, including responsibility for deciding where, when, and whether to file charges. But then he changed his tune. He sent another letter saying that he stood by his statement while also saying, "My charging authority is geographically limited to my home district." He flat out said to Senator Lindsey Graham that he didn't request a special counsel designation, and he had never been denied the authority to bring charges in any jurisdiction. So what gives? How can someone think they have ultimate power, be told they don't, then still act like they do? What is he? A member of Congress? Well, some say that there's political pressure on Weiss to kowtow to the Biden-friendly DOJ, but there isn't any concrete proof of that. Some argue that there was simply some miscommunication or misunderstanding, specifically on the difference between special counsels and special lawyers.
And it is the difference, as Ms. Ocasio-Cortez was saying, between special counsel and special attorney, which might explain the confusion or the disagreement here. In any event, the U.S. Attorney for Delaware had all of the authority he needed to bring whatever charges he wanted, wherever he wanted, and he is the witness for that.
So their argument is that a person in charge of a major investigation didn't know the difference between special counsel and special attorney. That's like saying a chef doesn't know the difference between special sauce and special ed. Critics contend that Weiss just decided not to make charges, but the IRS whistleblowers insist that there was no misunderstanding. They point out that Weiss only said that he was assured authority, and yet he said he was denied when he asked for special counsel authority. To back up their claims, Shapley's legal team issued a statement naming 6 FBI and IRS agents who witnessed the meeting where Weiss allegedly said he had no authority. They also point to the notes Shapley wrote and shared on the day of the meeting, which IRS Special Agent in Charge Darrell Walden said covered it all. Their evidence is so detailed, I wouldn't be surprised if they could name the type of underwear Weiss wore that day. Though that wouldn't be that impressive, since you can guess just by looking at him. Tidy whities. 2 sizes too small. If the whistleblowers are right and Weiss's hands were tied, then the ultimate decision on charging Hunter Biden wasn't on Weiss, but on Biden-appointed officials who, strangely enough, decided not to enact most of the recommended charges. So according to Shapley and Ziegler's testimony, their investigation into Hunter Biden was stymied left and right. But do any of the whistleblowers' claims show Joe Biden himself acting criminally? I'll tell you after this final commercial break. Welcome back. Shapley and Ziegler accused Biden-appointed officials of getting in the way of the Hunter Biden probe. But the real juice that Republicans were looking for was anything that pointed to Joe Biden personally having a hand in corruption. After all, Joe is known for being a bit handsy. Did anything concrete come out against Joe Biden? Not exactly. Republicans still haven't specified an exact crime Joe Biden committed. There's all sorts of evidence that touches on Joe Biden's involvement in his son's dealings, but it's a bit convoluted. And the IRS whistleblowers were careful not to give Republicans fuel that would imply that Joe Biden himself directly got involved with Hunter Biden and his shady business dealings. Man, I should have expected that. Every time you expect a big return from the IRS, they give you absolutely nothing. They did note that they interviewed Rob Walker, the Biden business associate who received a $3 million wire from the China-linked company State Energy HK Limited. Walker's company sent $1 million that eventually went to several Bidens. Biden's daughter-in-law Haley, Biden's younger brother James, Biden's son Hunter, and an unknown account simply labeled as Biden. For a long time, some have assumed that the unknown Biden refers to Joe, but that's never been confirmed. However, the IRS whistleblowers had some leads that suggest this unknown Biden is Joe. What caught their eye was an email sent among business partners of Hunter Biden saying, 10 held by H for the big guy. This is in reference to a joint venture that never quite materialized between Hunter Biden and another Chinese company called CEFC. There's been a lot of speculation that the big guy is Joe Biden himself. And that's what Ziegler thinks.
We're preparing for that interview and we're referencing that email, 10 held by H for the big guy. And from what I understand that to be his dad, President Biden.
To make matters even worse for the Bidens, Shapley said that Walker told federal investigators that Joe Biden showed up at a meeting between CEFC executives and Hunter at the Four Seasons Hotel in L.A.
And did Rob Walker tell you that President Biden had ever showed up to a meeting with his son's business associates?
He told us that he had shown up at the meeting. People involved in the CEFC were meeting at the Four Seasons, and that the subject's father, President Biden, showed up at that meeting.
So President Biden was there physically?
That's what the witness said, yes.
Keep in mind that this is just what Rob Walker said, and there's no 100% proof that Joe Biden actually made any appearances or took any money. Also, just because Biden's somewhere physically doesn't mean he's all there mentally. But circumstantial evidence does lead a lot of people to believe Biden was on the take. And if everything that the IRS whistleblowers said is true, government officials have tried to steer the investigations away from Joe Biden. For example, remember Assistant U.S. Attorney Leslie Wolf? She allegedly told investigators that they should not ask questions about the big guy or dad. That's an odd thing to tell investigators. She also allegedly denied a request to interview Biden's adult grandchildren about their connections to deductions claimed on Hunter Biden's tax returns, saying that it will get us into hot water if we interview the president's grandchildren. Even though, according to Shapley, that would have been standard procedure. There's still more information to be exposed in the Hunter Biden saga. House Republicans are already demanding DOJ officials who were named by the IRS whistleblowers testify. Wolf will almost certainly be one of them. Meanwhile, the White House claimed that Republicans have wasted taxpayer dollars on a wild goose chase without offering a single credible piece of evidence of wrongdoing by the president. I think it's safe to say that the goose chase isn't over yet. So what do you think about the IRS whistleblowers' testimonies? Leave your comments below. And remember that we rely mainly on direct support from viewers like you. If you want to help us deliver nonpartisan news, all it takes is as little as $1 per episode over on our crowdfunding website, Patreon. Visit patreon.com/America Uncovered for more. Click the link below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell, and you're watching America Uncovered.